Hello and welcome to this Eyes of Harmony First Thoughts on Chapter 3, halfway through the series of
Yeah.
Doctor Who Flux, which is Once Upon Time. And yeah, again, quite a bit like episode 1, where it was kind of a bit all over the place in terms of like what's going on. Very crazy, like less focused, I guess, than
Far more so.
episode
I
2.
don't know what I feel about this episode, to be honest, because this episode really wasn't one thing. And if some people found episode 1 difficult to sort of comprehend, I'd hate to think what they think about this episode because goodness, it was a mess, like an intentional mess. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean that it's interesting in theory. I don't know if I like the execution or not, but
I think there was definitely interesting elements. I didn't find myself I didn't find myself getting bored or anything like that. I felt like the things that were set up were interesting. But yeah, it's very much, again, it's very reliant on how the rest of the series plays out on how good this episode is, because again, this is very kind of core Flux
yeah,
centric. While last week's, I feel like with episode 2, you could jump in at any point in a watch through,
yeah,
and
well, yeah,
you could be like, I feel like
absolutely.
watching that episode, and you can watch it and you have a really good time with it. A bit like Heaven Sent. I feel like you can jump in. If you just
Yeah,
want to watch that episode, you can, and it's not reliant on
yeah,
anything else. This one is very much like core main story of the
yeah.
series. I
And I mean,
liked,
granted, that's kind of the point, right?
yeah,
Because as far as an ongoing narrative is concerned, like episodes which are there for more like progressing the plot, there to serve a purpose. I did actually
mm,
kind of call it, seeing the next side trailer with like the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels stuff. It's just like, yeah, this isn't going to be like a focused episode. But I didn't expect it to quite be this loose with everything. And again, that was the point, right? With the whole,
yeah,
time rushing for everybody. And, like I said, the premise is, sound to try and get like a complete picture on something. Again, I'm just not quite sure how I feel about the execution. But
mm. Okay, well, let's start with the new character that we met. So we met Belle,
mm,
obviously in her journey through it. The Daleks
yeah.
looked a bit shaky in that CG shot,
Yeah, well, they were
but
very, very shiny, weren't they? I mean, I called that as well, actually,
you
that they were
did. You
just going
did
to be
call
thrown
that
in. Yeah.
Daleks are going to be thrown in there. I was a bit like, oh, hello, right? Are they kind of, but they didn't show up too much.
No,
But
no.
I did
That's what.
like the whole thing of that, like, if the universe was ending, these forces would just take over the
Yeah.
Daleks and the Cybermen and the Sontarans, just battling out for pure victory. Though for Sontarans, I guess it depends if Harutans are still about, because I feel like that was their main war. So I don't know. Really, they're not really
Mm,
like Sontarans aren't really trying to conquer for conquering. They're more about the battle than I think the
yeah.
victory.
Battle for battle's sake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know. It was interesting. I was wondering what they'd be
Yeah, if
really
there's no
fighting for.
warfare,
Like,
what do the
yeah,
Sontarans have to exist for anymore, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
But
interesting. Like, I feel like they'd probably push for the war
yeah,
to continue. I guess. Like,
like even last week, it was like they were claiming Earth as like a strategic base, right? As
yeah, not to
opposed
like
to
just overtake Earth and be its
yeah,
rulers.
for
It
the sake of
was
that.
it was for their war against the Routons. So
But
I
I didn't. Did they even mention? They didn't
I
mention
don't
the
think they mentioned
Rootons.
it, but I mean, I guess that's always like a background.
It's always
It's always there.
always
It's
a
their always
constant.
driving force. Is that it is that war with the
Hmm.
Routons that all of this is for. Um,
Yes.
and it would be interesting in the future to see what happens if they actually finally beat the Routons. What would they do?
Hmm.
Like that would be an interesting concept. Like the whole thing
Yeah.
is this, and then they get it. Then what? That would
Yes.
be very interesting. But anyway,
They just find
this
someone else to
episode. So we
fight.
had Belle and that whole story, and I really liked those chunks of it. I like the reveal that who it was Vinda. I didn't see that
Yeah.
coming. That it was actually
No,
going
I
to be
didn't think
him.
about that.
They set that up quite well in the trailer. I thought it was going to be the guy from The Inbetweeners. That
Hmm.
character Blake, I think his name is. I thought it was going to be him, But yeah, apparently not. And it's interesting that now that they've kind of split up at the end. Though interesting that Vinda knew what a TARDIS was, but his home
Yeah.
planet wasn't Gallifrey. Because that's what I was
No,
expecting. I was expecting like, oh, is he gonna?
but someone with a great, I guess potentially the society with a greater knowledge of space
Mm,
and such, like they might have come across a Time Lord at some point, or like have knowledge of them, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's any sort of thing beyond that, but there might be.
yeah,
We never got that followed up on, and if there is anything more to follow up on, we will see it later, I suppose.
yeah. But yeah, I'm interested where that storyline is gonna go.
Mm.
And I really like seeing his backstory and how he got to be on that outpost in the middle of nowhere. You know, he was
Mm.
trying to do the right thing, and he did, and then he got punished for it, which was cruel.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's life, and that is what happens. So,
yeah.
I like that. That was good, interesting. Dan, pretty much. I think the issue with Dan as a character in this series is this is all happening so at once that there's no time in between
Yeah.
episodes for them to really
Like
get
he
to know
hasn't
the
really,
Doctor at
yeah,
all, or build that kind of rapport. So
or really. Well, I mean, he kind of has,
a little bit.
I guess. Yeah, a little bit, but like, like if we'd had 10 episodes with that, like we probably would have had a properly like. It would have felt more, I guess, a build up to kind of finding out more about, I mean, I guess we kind of do know what he's about,
We got
but
it nice in the day. It was nice about hearing that past. It felt organic.
mm,
It didn't feel expo dump in that moment because it was like
yeah.
the date they were supposed to go on, and that was very. I like that. It's just like it's odd, right? This is all happening at once
Mm.
for Dan. But I liked that the Doctor's kind of being a bit of an ass at the minute to the companions.
Yeah,
Like it's like finally, thank you. Some kind of like
yes, very
just
very
some
controlling, kind of yeah,
like conflict
barking
between
out
them, and it's
orders
like I
and
really like that bit at the end after they disappeared. You know, the swarm disappeared, and there was just that kind of silent walk down that hallway of kind of defeat.
mm,
Really, they didn't really win. Like,
mm,
you know, Dan's kind of
yeah,
love interest is trapped, and I thought that was very cool the way that they had these like kind of suits which could trap a load of souls in them. I thought that was a very interesting
mm,
thing because I think we all thought, you know, oh, they're villains, they're so on in this, but
yeah,
actually they're just walking prisons for
they're
like
just prisons,
a
yeah,
load of souls inside, and that's it's good. You got this kind of like crux to hold it
mm,
on, and then obviously Yaz with the Weeping Angels. We'll get to the
yeah,
Doctor in a moment, but yeah, that
mm,
whole side thing. I like that they brought back the screen thing and it coming through the
yeah.
screen. Image of an
Although
angel
I
becomes
have
an
to say
angel.
that the video game didn't really look like a video game.
Yeah, it was
Wasn't
just
a
edge of
very convincing
reality. It was
approximation.
just edge of
But even
reality.
then,
That's what it looked like.
right,
They,
video games in motion have a certain look, but CG emulating video games very much have a certain look too. A very fake looking
and that was it.
attempt at a video game, and
It
they
was a
yeah,
cutscene. It was a cutscene.
it wasn't a cutscene though
Where
because
she could move the camera cutscene. They've made those now. You can do it.
yeah, but
But
even then it didn't look very yeah.
I liked that they brought back, you know, you can't like just close it and like, you
Mm,
know, like Amy had to do it on the loop, didn't she, back in Time of Angels. That was a really good moment.
yeah.
And obviously Yaz could actually get to the game's console so she could just destroy it that way, which Amy
Just
couldn't.
smash it.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like that was really interesting. What was interesting as well, where it's like, you know, this is like your past or, you know, present, future kind of thing. And like Yaz
Mm,
is like, well, this isn't my future, but maybe it is, right?
mm,
Like,
could be.
maybe, you know, at some point she has to leave the Doctor. Like,
Mm,
while she hasn't thought about it yet, like, this could be it. And while they're blaming it on the
yeah.
Weeping Angels changing the timelines, I don't think they are. I think this
Yeah.
is Yaz's future.
Mm.
And at some point, like, something's going to happen. They're going to fall
We've
out,
got a
I think.
sofa and throwing video game consoles.
I think they're going to fall
Video.
out. I think Yaz and the Doctor, that's how it's going to end. It's going to end with just the friendship actually falling apart.
Mm.
Because, like, it's kind of progressively getting worse, isn't it? Like,
It is. It
the
is.
Doctor's shutting her out, shutting her out, shutting her out. And I think what will happen is the Doctor's going to be
Shouting at her,
dying.
barking
Well,
orders. Yeah.
I think the Doctor will purposefully make the friendship end because she knows she's going to regenerate and become
Mm.
something different and doesn't want to put Yaz through that or something, along those
Mm.
lines. That would be
Quite possibly.
an
Quite
interesting way
possibly.
to end it, right? That we haven't really had that yet, where the doctor's like,
Mm.
you know what, I've put this person through enough. I'm not going to suddenly change in front of them and make them go through all of that. Like I'm gonna do. It's like one of those hard breakups where you still like each other, but you know that you had to let them go because you want
Mm.
different things, and like you
Yeah.
can't put them through the pain of potentially, all that stress and strain. So
Mm.
you want them to remember you as you were, not, it
Mm.
slowly deteriorating even further. Like it's not your
Yeah.
responsibility as, and
Mm.
that would be interesting.
Quite
But
possibly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to a great cliffhanger. I'm looking forward to next week. I feel it'll be a bit more like the Sontaran episode, where it's just
Mm.
focused. Like this is more like a separate
Yeah. A proper
entity
Weeping
episode.
Angel episode. Yeah. Of course, we haven't talked about the Doctor's
And
side of
obviously
things.
now the big one. Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, pre-Hartnell kind of shit going down.
Yep.
Ruth showed up, which I think we all in the back of our
Yeah.
minds had a feeling
I
she
mean,
was
I,
going
I
to
didn't.
show
I
up.
didn't even. She appeared in the mirror. I just didn't really react. It was just like,
My reaction was,
I,
we were right. That was it.
no,
And
I was just like,
emotionless.
okay. I guess we.
Oh, I
I was just
suppose
sort
she'll
of like,
see.
I guess we need to deal with this at
They
some
have to.
point.
They have to. So, and I prefer it to be
Yeah.
this, like in this episode, than say like a Sontaran or a Weeping Angel one. Like those episodes, I want to concentrate on those villains. And
Hmm.
this story, at least, it worked in the sense of exploring the past through a different means. It was interesting that Carvanista
Hmm.
knows the fugitive doctor, though.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. So that's how we're going to come
Well, I
back
mean,
to
that
him.
makes sense with the whole like thing about chasing him down for the talk to asking about the division earlier in the season. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, that does make sense, doesn't it? I forgot about that. Yeah,
yeah.
that'll work. That'll be very interesting. I liked how it was like different people with different faces, and it's like it left that
Hmm.
mystery to who the Roof Doctor was really with during
Yeah, the other people.
that phase. And it's nice to see how like Swarm ended up where they are, and it's nice just to have a new kind of species in Doctor Who, like
Hmm.
the Maudry.
Yeah,
Like just these
and I
beings
mean,
like in time basically just watching over everything. I really like the design and just the way that they it's very
hmm.
classic Doctor Who. I really feel
Yeah,
like quite a
it is.
classic vibe from those kind
Hmm.
of creatures, and I
Yeah.
really like that, and I thought
In general, yeah, I'd say what the series has done quite well is just making the whole universe feel like bigger, I
mm,
suppose.
yeah,
Because things have kind of felt kind of small over certain periods. Like I guess, particularly when we mostly centering it around like you know few very specific places on Earth as opposed to like space. But here, like you really do start to feel like the size of space, despite the fact that the whole thing is currently in the process of disintegrating. But
yeah, it
you know,
feels like a lot of series 11 is kind of on Earth, and even a lot of series 12 is
mm,
kind of on Earth, so
mm,
it's nice, even though we had like a lot of
mm,
episode 1 and 2, but that we're just going to different locations. I think that's the key thing. I get doing
mm,
alien planets is expensive and difficult to do if you're not just doing it in a quarry, right? Like I get that.
mm,
I get it for production. But I feel like, we've been doing interesting space stations and
mm,
spaceships, and I mean, you
yeah,
could tell they did the cheap with her finding a Lipari spaceship. It just so happened to be the spaceship that was left. Oh, the Lipari are all
only
gone, but
that.
they left a
Yeah,
ship. Oh golly! But I can't blame
only
them.
that.
COVID production.
Mm,
Smart move.
yeah,
Whatever. It connects
sure.
everything up.
Mm,
So yeah, that was all. It feels bigger though. I agree. It feels like we're going to more places and seeing things, but also I feel
yeah,
like
and
the
seeing more
lore
creatures.
feels
Yeah,
right. Like the Daleks they would do this, they would do that.
yeah,
Like it feels right. Like I always have
yeah.
thought, like at the end of the universe, that is what would happen. Like if
Well, I mean, and again,
those
I think
forces will just win, just
yeah.
because of what they're like.
Well, exactly. In fact, and again, I think I mentioned it before, but I think pretty much the premise of the Big Finish series, Dalek Empire, is just
Is
like
this?
towards the end, very far in the future, when there's no Doctor, the Daleks basically take over the entire universe as like this unstoppable force, more or less.
Yeah.
So
And that is what would inevitably happen. It's just the
Hmm.
sad thing of it. But that's why
Yeah.
like all those small victories when the Doctor does beat them are so important. And I feel like sometimes that
Hmm.
gets forgotten. That yeah, it's like there
Yeah.
will always be this evil, so any win over it is a win, like a huge win. But yeah, so
Exactly.
we there was the old woman, right? Okay,
Hmm.
that we saw
That.
at the very end. That was interesting. I was a bit like the Rani,
No.
which at the point, I was thinking was it was like knew who the Doctor was. She was kind of doing potiony stuff, and then said the Flux was created, and like I feel like the space that they were in was a bit TARDIS-esque. Like just when I was studying the
Oh,
background and seeing like things in jars, and it was kind of purple in terms of,
yeah.
and that was my first conclusion. I hope
Mm,
I don't mind if it
I,
isn't, but that was
I
my
mean,
first question of that's
mm,
interesting.
I certainly didn't get that at all, given the general like almost like higher being sort of vibe I
Mm,
kind of got from a lot of what she was saying, and like almost like this didn't matter, the universe, whatever, the flux was created, and saying it so casually and such, almost as if like it is kind of a species where it doesn't matter. So my first thought was maybe this is a member of the Doctor's actual species.
outside, yeah, a different universe. That could be true.
Yeah, so someone, I don't know if she would have a direct connection with the Doctor, but like a potential like higher plane of existence being, which the Doctor is also a part of
Mm.
potentially, was my kind of first thought on her. But I guess we'll get that explained. The
Yeah, well,
list of that is expanding episode by episode.
yeah. I mean, I'm still interested by the flux and what's happening to the TARDIS. That's
Mm,
all. That looks all cool. But I'm kind of glad that in this kind of 6 episode arc, we're still getting these kind of little side
mm.
adventures, and the next one looks interesting. The next time trailer was very well cut,
Oh yeah,
very
yeah.
intriguing, and I'm very excited to have a proper Weeping Angel story after so long because it has
Mm,
been like almost a decade.
yeah.
So since
Which, to be fair,
actual
was for good reason,
yes,
given that.
yes,
But it'll be interesting to see what they do with them now.
it's interesting for someone else to properly write for them. I
Mm,
mean, there was a really good Big Finish classic Doctor's New Monsters. I think it's the fifth Doctor and it's like Michelangelo, I think.
mm.
And that's a really good Big Finish, which is interesting because you think like Weeping Angels are quite visual, so it's quite interesting that
Yeah.
but they actually it was a really it was a story. I was like, damn, this would have looked pretty good. Like I think there was like they were chiseling marble, and like out of a marble came these perfect angels, which were basically
Mm,
weeping angels. I was like, that would have been such an awesome visual. I think just
mm,
chiseling away and just this perfect hand already like it crumbles around this perfect
yeah.
hand. Like would have been a great visual. Maybe
Oh
they should
yeah.
use that, and
Yeah.
they should use that one day. I don't care. They should honestly. It would look so cool.
Mm,
These weeping angels, because I do like the weeping angels, and I feel like we've had
mm,
two decent stories. The only one I don't like is Angels Take Manhattan. Flesh and
mm,
Stone loses its way a bit, but I still actually enjoy that two-parter.
mm.
Um, so and Blink's obviously a classic. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for somebody else to be writing for them because I think
Mm.
different ideas, different angles, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it'll be interesting
exactly.
to see where we go with those guys.
So certainly the actual like next time trailer looked more inspired than anything since Blink, more or less.
Yeah, I'm still interested where they're going with Swarm and well, what was it? Azure and I've forgotten his name now. They were rough translations anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested where they'll go with them.
Mm.
Seeing as it's like they're not quite the big bad, like I feel like there's something
Yeah.
above
Mm.
them, like whatever created the flux,
Yeah.
and clearly
Whatever.
I don't think
Mm.
these guys have created the flux. I think it's
No. No.
just happening
There is another
concurrently.
twist to this.
But yeah, yeah,
Maybe it's Rashalon. After being kicked off Gallifrey, his revenge is to
to
just
do
flood the
that.
universe with the flood. Yeah, I mean, yeah. My only concern is that they really. are expecting a lot of the audience this series in terms of just
Yeah,
remembering a
I
lot of
could
what's going on,
I could
which
tell my mum was struggling a bit more in this episode.
again, as people who are really like seriously into this and really focus on this, yeah, I can kind of appreciate it in a way that they're not really like
They're not treating us too
talking
much
down
like
to us
idiots. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, well, exactly. But there always needs to be a balance, particularly in a series like this, unlike say like a Netflix series where you can just kind of binge it all at once they all drop together
Mm,
during when they do. Whereas here it's a week after week um sort
yeah.
of situation where things are going to get lost. And granted, they are doing recaps, which is good, which is definitely good. But of course, that's only like a few seconds recap of like, a long episode. There's a
I'm
lot of things in there, a lot of things which aren't in the recap. So when they bring certain things up, you might be like, well, what the heck? Even as people who paid attention, like, you
it
don't
was a lot.
necessarily remember everything.
I was struggling a little bit, but yeah, I feel
Mm.
like the common audience would struggle a lot. What was cool actually though was no, what I'm glad about, not what was cool, was do you remember in last series they had Jodie Whittaker saying previously on Doctor Who at the start of it. Whenever there
Mm.
was a previously, it sounded just so weird having like the Doctor just to be like previously on
Yeah.
Doctor Who. I really hated
Mm.
that, so I'm really glad they got rid of it in this
Yeah.
series because I remember the first time I heard it on Spyfall, I was like, oh no.
Hmm.
No, they did the thing. Just because other people do it, you don't do it because it breaks the
Mm.
sci-fi wall of. You don't break that wall unless you're like
Mm.
in Riverdale or some crappy show like that.
Yeah.
So, but
Sure.
yeah, did you in the next time trailer they said the 21st of November.
Hmm.
So clearly like that, and that is next week's air date. So
Hmm.
that'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
They timed
So
that well.
yeah, they've timed
Yeah.
them well. Halloween Apocalypse. They
Hmm.
they knew ages in advance. But like this
They
is the
did,
thing, right?
clearly.
Like I get not revealing the titles for War of the Sontarans and Village of the Angels or whatever it's called, but the Halloween Apocalypse. I mean, yes,
Hmm.
maybe that would have given away the air date, but what was the problem with that?
Yeah.
Once Upon Time, and then what was episode 5 revealed as? That was Survivors of a Flux.
Yeah.
That was it.
They
Okay.
don't really mean anything
And
out of
then
context.
what was the last one that kind of leaked? But is it a spoiler? But some people will complain it's a spoiler. The Vanquishers, wasn't it? That was it.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like people are
Again,
complaining
what does
about
that
that being a
mean?
spoiler. Like, yeah, like I could eat a
Me too.
meal. I could destroy a pizza and be like, I'm a vanquisher of pizza. Like that doesn't. There's that is that you need the context to know what
Yeah.
they're a vanquisher of. Who is the vanquisher and what of are the key things, and those things aren't in the title. So like, it's like not a spoiler. Like they're gonna release it on like, and they don't like make a big thing about releasing the titles anyway. They just drop it on Twitter. But yeah,
Yeah.
like you could have revealed like those. I mean, Survivors of a Flux maybe, but you could have just done Survivors of a blank, and that would have left speculation, right? That's
Mm.
what they did. I think for like series 2 titles or something. Like they would release the titles and leave blanks in them, or not release them. Like the Stolen Earth, they didn't release, but I think Journey's End they did release because it's like
Yeah.
it's whatever. Like it doesn't
Mm.
matter. So
Exactly.
it makes this like secrecy all the more stupid, really.
Mm. Yeah.
Very dumb, but yeah. So far, I still enjoyed the episode as a whole. I wouldn't say I didn't
Yeah. I mean,
not
I'm
enjoy it.
not.
I
I'm
wasn't.
certainly not as enthusiastic as I was last week, right?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I still don't really know how I feel about it, and like I don't know if I will go for a little while now, considering that was a lot. And I mean, if I complain about it being too messy, it's like, yeah, that's the point. But like,
Mm. Is how
was
they
it
conclude
done
it.
well?
Is how they
What
conclude
do
it.
I? And yeah, and
It's
that's
ultimately down
important
to
there
that.
too. Like, yeah, as well. Like I said, it's interesting. I just don't like even as its place now. I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, but
Mm.
yeah,
It is what it
it's just
is.
that.
Look
Like,
forward
it's
to it.
not negative necessarily, but
Still
it just
waiting for the
kind of
mole
is.
man to
Yeah.
be explained. I want to know what's in the tunnels. And also, what was shooting at Dan? I was thinking they were going to have some Sontaran chasing him, but then it kind of
It's
didn't.
clearly something
So I
else.
guess it was something else, which is exciting. I just wonder. I'm just wondering what. I wonder if that's going to be a new villain or because I'm interested. So obviously, episode 4 is going to be very much focused on the Weeping Angels and that side
Yeah.
of thing. I think the Weeping Angels are taking them off completely for their own gains. That's what they're doing. And then we've got 2 episodes left, so it'll be interesting on what direction those go.
Yeah, there
Um,
seems to be an awful lot of questions for what's essentially going to be 2 episodes, but
well, I guess it depends how
maybe,
long the said episodes are. I mean,
and that's true too.
was
That's true
today's an
too.
hour? I feel it was.
I think so.
Actually, no. Maybe it couldn't have been. Actually, looking at the time, it couldn't have been because we've been recording 25 minutes and it's 51. So maybe it
True.
was like
True.
must have been 50 minutes then. So yeah, interesting. I'm glad that Vinder's kind of gone off because it means we have something interesting to cut away to. I guess.
Yeah, we don't have like a 4-person TARDIS again.
Yeah, it breaks it up
We are
nicely.
kind of in essence sort of. Well, I mean, I
Almost.
guess in terms of the scene to scene thing, you're really only focused on the I guess 3 and 1. So
Yeah.
I guess it's a little bit better than having 4 all in the same place. Although I guess each one does take timeshare
I
from
mean,
one another. But
honestly, I don't mind Vinder being like an companion-esque because he's from the future and he's a
yeah, well,
different
exactly.
species.
Yeah,
It's
different. Yeah,
interesting.
finally. Except again, he's not a companion though. So
He's a pseudo companion, at least for this series.
mm,
Is enough of. I want to count him as because then it just makes it real.
eh,
It makes it makes it real that they're
not
not
traveling on
obsessed
the
with
TARDIS though.
I know. It's a
It's another
shame.
Sarah
But I
Kingdom.
do I do love Dan. I think, he's cracking.
Yeah.
I'm loving John Bishop in the role. I'm enjoying his scenes, He's just got
Mm.
so much charisma. Again, like what kind of Graham was, he brings that just character to
Yeah.
the Bradley Walsh brought that kind of charisma and character. And that was I think the issue was that just like they had too many other people to share the screen, so they couldn't like make Graham shine a bit as much as like Dan is, But I was enjoying the kind of moving, and yeah, it didn't treat us like idiots too much. We did get the odd line which felt a bit ADR'd in,
Yeah.
which was like it was like when she was talking to the Maury and was like, "Oh, I'm going back in time." So when and then moments later, it's like we know she's back in time because she's got the dark coat. Like you don't need to actually specifically say that you're now being dragged back in time to then said point.
Yeah.
Like how do you know?
Then
Like
why did Jodie's coat then change if it's not really her there?
well, it's because I'm guessing it's just how the memories are bleeding through. Right? It was like kind of the darker
But
clothes of
why
Ruth.
would that? Then why isn't she just wearing Ruth's costume?
Because that would have been too much of a giveaway that she was going to show up. Basically, it's just a story thing.
I mean, then you just don't.
It's
show
for the
front of
cosplayers,
costume.
Conrad. It's for the cosplayers. They did it for them, and
Yeah.
it does look cool. To be fair, I do.
Does look kinda cool.
I kind of like the darker coat above the actual coat, to be honest. But
Yeah.
there we go. We move. But yeah, that's all my first thoughts for this time watching it.
Yeah.
Once upon
It
time,
was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. They got their Dalek quota for the year in though. That was it. They're
So
like,
they might
okay, we
actually
have to
not-
show the Daleks once. Right.
Yeah, well,
let's just
exactly.
put like 10 in. 10 all in
Yeah.
one scene. Just continuously, way too close to each other. No
Again,
formation.
and very,
Just
very
it was a
shiny.
bit of a conga line, wasn't it? It was like
It was.
they were happy that
I-
like most of the universe was exterminated for them and didn't have to do anything.
So the fact that they are here, I do wonder if there won't be a Dalek New Year special if they're putting them here.
It'll be interesting.
But we'll see. I mean, they could still well do it and just have that be the dedicated Dalek episode. But they have an opportunity now to potentially do something else because they've used them here. They're not obligated to use them then, right? So
it really comes down to when the BBC commissioned that extra special. Because if they did it in advance enough, they were like, okay, now this is going to be Jodie's final story. It'll either be they'll wrap up this kind of timeless children arc, because I don't think that's going to wrap up this series. I think the end of Flux will just understand it more, but I don't think that will be completely it. I think there will still be one last thing, that going
Big
on,
twist.
and either
Um,
that will be finished in the New Year special, and then the centenary special is just one final different adventure. Like, I guess it depends if they want that final adventure to be completely tied in lore, or just to be more of a celebrationary thing. You can do it either
I
way,
mean,
because the Day of the Doctor also said kind of big
you
exploration.
true. Usually, though, they use as a way to wrap up
Mm.
like a Doctor's arc, except Twice Upon a Time, because that was sort of a last minute thing, and they just
Yeah,
had to
the
throw in
arc
a
was
different
already.
idea into
Yeah,
it.
see, it's like that. Is
But
is it going to be
like
like that, or is it going to be like
m-
a
most
end of
of yeah,
time
End of
esque?
Time, Time of the Doctor as
Well, that was
well.
rushed. I don't think Moffat thought
It
Matt
still
Smith.
did.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was
yes.
rushed, but it did
Yeah.
conclude.
I think Moffat thought he was gonna have another series with Matt Smith, and then he didn't. It was like, fuck. I need to tie this all up in an hour.
Yeah,
Shit. Shit.
basically,
Shit.
yeah.
I generally think that was probably Moffat when he realized that.
That's what it does look like.
Because
Yeah.
it does generally feel like, fuck, okay, I need to tie all these things together, and that's why it's so loosely fitted, because I feel like, yeah, he felt like he was gonna have another series with him. So it really depends if Jodie was like, yep, this is it, this is the last one, and they're like, actually, I want us to do a special, but I've basically written this story. So then it's like, okay, are they gonna add another one in between it, just move that one to be the centenary special, and then bring in another one, do another Dalek story. I mean, I think Daleks have been spotted, but I don't know. I can't remember where or when I saw that. I
Yeah, but
feel
that
like,
could be for anything, though.
well, it
doesn't
wasn't
have
this
to
one
be.
because it was CG as hell.
True.
But
True.
they were shiny. That's basically how you
Very
could tell.
shiny.
Yeah, they were
And
out celebrating. They put on
yeah.
their best polish. They're like, hey, we're exterminating the last of the universe. Job's almost done, boys. They
We
felt
heard
good.
Russell T was coming back,
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
decided to have a party.
Yeah, they got them those. They don't want to be redesigned. They're trying to look brand spanking new. Like, Russell,
Yeah.
don't get rid of us. We look great.
Their designs haven't changed, so they're like the one constant in terms of design things throughout
Wow, you can't
since
improve
2005.
perfection. Do you think Russell
They
T will change
tried.
him? Do you think
They
Russell T will change him?
I kind of hope not. I do kind of like the consistent. Granted, I would like to see them potentially try other color palettes potentially, like they did in the classic series. Because you look at the classic series, and fundamentally, most of the Dalek designs were relatively the same from beginning to end. There were tweaks, like the way the eye stalks worked, the way the lights looked, the way the grills sometimes worked, but for the most part, it was just a smooth dome top and just the design aspects. If we are going to do any changes to Daleks, I hope it's not super radical, and I just hope to see I said, different color palettes like we used to get, potentially for. I mean, and Russell T did do some of that, right? The Emperor's
Yeah.
Guards had a black top. Of course, we had
Sec
Dalek
as well.
Sec and the Supreme Dalek as well.
Yeah, nice red
But
one.
I'd just like to see more interesting Dalek colors rather than necessarily suddenly another big attempt at an overhaul for the Daleks.
I'd like to
probably
see.
not sticking.
I'd like to see the white ones again. The Emperors. I think
white and black.
No,
gold,
white and
sorry.
gold. Yeah,
White
white
and
and
gold,
gold
yeah.
would, I think, look really sick.
And
Or
also
even,
the kind of and the imperial colors, the gray, the dark gray kind of blacky colors.
Yeah,
the
more
they'd be really cool to see.
camo. They're more camo. They're more hidden. I feel you could do some really nice visuals with Daleks that are dark in color. I feel like imagine a Dalek in a cave or something that's basically black. You can't even see it, and you could just get a bit of a shine of its casing as it in the distance goes by. I think you could do some really different visuals that they're more camouflage. The bronze ones don't make much sense in some aspects, because it's they're supposed to be tanks, and they are supposed to be military, I guess, and so the grey makes sense, right? They're hiding, they're trying to blend in and be these killers of accuracy and success. But if you're bright gold, you're kind of being seen from quite the distance. Really, you're not like hiding anywhere.
Mm,
But anyway,
true.
that's digression. But I
And I
like
mean, there
the
was slight variation.
Cybermen. Look great. They just didn't do much.
Yeah, they all got they all got taken down so easily.
Yeah,
I mean,
I kind of wanted it to be like a last ditch effort, like
mm,
almost a hold up. I do think did they repeat the footage where the two got shot and then fell to the side because it kind of happened twice. I don't
I
know. Maybe
tell.
maybe it was different shots, but for a moment it was so similar, and I was like, did they
Mm,
just repeat the footage? But they probably didn't. But yeah, it
yeah,
looked good. I
yeah.
like the way
And I
that
mean, granted, the Cybermen always are on their own are kind of. I wouldn't say weak. They're obviously like tougher than like a normal human and upgraded, as so to say, in a lot of aspects. But I guess compared to a lot of other villains, they are kind of easier to take down. But what
mm,
they lack in that, they make up in sheer numbers, which is what they're kind of getting at here. But
yeah.
um, hmm,
Yeah, but I mean, the edit was solid. I feel like, it made sense for such a confusing kind of story that it was. At least it cut together well. Like, I really like that shot where actually Vinda was on the planet, the home planet, and there was that kind of like the way it was masked with the kind of ship, how it kind of split the screen. They used
hmm,
like the doorway split it quite nicely. That it wasn't just
hmm,
such a harsh sudden cut. It's a very
hmm,
nice moment. I like that. But yeah, I look forward to next week and the Weeping
hmm.
Angels, and see
Yeah,
what those
very
bad
look
boys
cool.
do.
Very look cool.
Um, yeah, I like that it's set in the past. I think that's interesting.
Hmm.
It removes the modern technology. I thought it was cool how the Weeping Angel actually got in the TARDIS. That was how it like
Yeah,
got
it's
into
like
a phone to
Charles,
then get
yeah.
into the TARDIS, then take control of it. Like fucking
Mm.
sick. I love that. Like
They achieved what they wanted to in Blink, right?
is right. Like that's a huge fucking thing actually. That Angel has
They
control of the
finally did
TARDIS.
it. They
They did it.
finally did it.
This one went rogue. You see, you just got to work by yourself.
Mm.
Stop outsourcing. Do it yourself. Just God.
Block off your friends, work by
Yeah,
yourself. You get better
yeah,
results that way.
yeah. You just
That's
don't.
why Nick is no longer a part of Eyes of Harmony,
That's
I'm
it.
afraid.
It'll just be easy. I'll just talk to my. Yeah, you can talk to yourself for an
Yeah,
hour.
it's just an Eye of Harmony now. It's
Yeah,
just me.
it's
Yeah.
just You just talk to yourself for an endless hour. That's a really good point, Conrad. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, yeah. My opinion is the right opinion because I.
Oh, mine is.
But yeah, yeah, you end up having like a whole argument with yourself as well. But there we go. That was.
This likes the episodes. No, he hates it. We hates the episodes.
There we go. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, comment below what you thought about Once Upon Time. Um, yeah, comment below. We'll be back next week to give our opinions on the Village of the Angels, which yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to.
yeah.
I'm hoping for just more of an adventure.
Mm. Which I think
I think we'll
that's
get
possibly what they get. Yeah.
with a little bit of side story of Vinda and Belle's
Oh
story,
yeah, yeah, of
but
course, yeah.
that's
Or
fine. Sometimes,
whatever other character they like throw at us, because seems like every episode we kind of
mm,
get like an introduction of somebody that's bigger to the overall plot.
yeah, it was interesting they didn't introduce Belle in the very first one, like first
No.
story. Maybe she was originally there, like, nope, that's too much. Even that's too much. They finally called it. But
So we
yeah,
made this episode more confusing instead.
yeah. But I'm glad it didn't happen like last week or anything. Like last week felt very more focused, which I was happy about. And yeah, I
Yeah,
look forward to that next week, and then probably the last two will be a bit more Flux
yeah.
focused and that. But at least then, if next week's one's solid, then at least that's two really strong episodes that you could come back to at any point and be like, I'm
Yeah.
enjoying this a lot.
I guess it's just the fact that there is only six means that there's less, I guess, to come back to.
Yes, yes. Though I did enjoy Halloween Apocalypse regardless, and I feel like you can watch that to go straight into the Sontaran one at least.
Yeah, yeah, you can.
So that's not too bad. It's the
Yeah.
latter half of the series that's all up in the air. But that's
I'm
that's the
like I
thing
said,
with
I'm a
these.
little worried again, given the amount which we still have to resolve, and as you say, we might not get it resolved this series
I
even.
think we'll get the Flux and Swarm and all that,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
that will
just
be
feel
done.
like
Yeah.
Timeless Children will get a good chunk of it, but not 100%. We'll get like 90%, and then there's still that final
Yes.
little thing, you know.
Hmm.
And it'll be interesting. I mean, we know like the Master's gonna have to show it back up at some point. Like
Yeah, at some
they're
point.
not just gonna leave it where it is, you know. You don't get an amazing actor like Sacha Dhawan and just have him for
Nah,
one
he died on
series. That's
Gallifrey,
it. Yeah, they
Dick.
just killed off the Master. Like
Yeah,
Chibnall
just
just
like
turns
that.
around and
Just
like
like
his
that.
final interview is like, yeah, I just killed him off. Like fuck him. Hate that
Because I hate
character.
the fans, and I just wanted to throw one last middle finger to
No,
all of you.
he did say like in the latest magazine like, oh well, you know, there's so much untapped potential. You just need to take big risks, and I'd be like, uh-oh. I think that was
Yeah,
the quote. I was a bit
it's
like, oh, that's a quote. That is it.
it's a
That's a
little
very
bit worrying.
yeah. That is a quote. Let's see. Yeah, this show has so much
Yeah.
untapped potential. There's so many things you can do with it. You have to take risks.
And I mean,
So
granted, I don't disagree. I mean, I've been saying this for a while that Doctor Who is like almost limitless possibilities in terms of the kind of stories you can tell. It's just you can still not like the direction they go with that, and
mm,
it's like, particularly in this case, to where no, I mean
it's
we've
all a
gone over
risk.
the I mean, we've gone over the timeless children issues before, but you know.
We'll see.
It's like
It
see how
depends where
far
they
it
go with
takes
it.
this,
Yeah.
but yeah, it it, it it could be fine, or it could be something we absolutely hate. I
It,
guess we'll
yeah.
see.
It really depends how much they go with it. I hope
Hmm.
Ruth is the
And
only
what it
pre.
is,
Yeah, I
right?
don't want to see much more of pre-Hartnell doctors if there is any. I kind of
Well,
like.
it kind of basically seen the whole
Well,
pantheon at this point.
yeah, I know we saw all the kid ones and whatever, but yeah, yeah, I just don't want the Doctor to be too
It
special.
will know
Just like
everything. We'll know
just
the Doctor's planet, the Doctor's parents,
the Doctor's
everything.
name. We'll see the certificate, birth certificate.
Yeah, we'll see the birth certificate. We'll see the Doctor's baby photos.
I mean, this is the thing. Doctor had family, you know, like on
Hmm.
Gallifrey, and I feel like that's always kind of forgotten. I always feel like
Yeah, yeah.
since like Russell T really played into it, and I love that.
Hmm.
But ever since then, it's kind of like, you know, like
Yeah.
that's such a
Aside
huge
from the
thing.
odd nod to Susan, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's like
Beyond that,
the Doctor was still married and had, you know, clearly had children to then have a
yeah.
grandchild.
Hmm.
So, like, I feel like that's more interesting to explore
Unless
because
they really are going the long barrel route, in which, like, I think Susan was more or less someone who adopted becoming a grandchild, more or less, of someone who she thought was a reincarnation of her real grandfather, the other, because the Doctor's kind of a. It was kind of confusing, but, like, if they really are going that route with it,
it'll
then
be
yeah,
interesting. It will be
yeah,
interesting.
if they really do make Longbarrow canon, that'd be and the whole Cardinal Master Plan, that'd be wild.
That would be a crazy thing
Actually,
to do.
was this even part of the last discussion?
No, we haven't. No, we
Or did
haven't
we talk about
discussed
it
it
after?
since.
Because okay, yeah, because the house which Doctor saw at the beginning of War of the Sontarans has as was pointing out on Twitter, has a striking resemblance to a piece of art of the Longborough House from, well, of course, the novel now Longborough, but specifically the sort of audio adaptation of that has like a drawing of the house, which I think was had something to do with the Doctor's growing up or something. I don't know. I haven't read or listened to it, but like basically they were pointing out that the house that the Doctor sees is a considerable awful lot like this concept art of Lumbara. So, like, and some people are like, oh, maybe they're actually, you know, gonna try to actually make this tie that into it, which is a whole nother can of worms. But I mean, given how they've like even gone as far as to make the Morbius Doctors canon, it's like I don't know if there's anything that Chibnall won't like,
Go into.
try to tap into. Yeah,
Would you be happy if they went with it?
I I mean, that on top of what we've already got about the
Well, if they
Doctor
tied
not being on Gallifrey, like
if
not
they
being
tied it
Gallifreyan,
into it,
like it'd be honestly no, because that make it all the more of a mess. Like that on top of what we've already been getting in terms of timeless
mm,
child revelations would be kind of a clusterfuck.
See, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like one thing that does get frustrating is I always feel like we ended up knowing too much more about the Doctor than I think maybe we ever really should. Like,
Yeah.
we got Gallifrey, and then we started to get, what was nice about in the classic era is it was always just drips and drabs. We saw
Yeah.
Time Lord history, but we never really saw anything else. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like, Modern Who started to really push it. Russell T got it right, but it was in the Stephen Moffat era did it really started to go too much into it. Started, we saw like even them stealing the TARDIS and like kind of those moments which shouldn't have been written. Those kind of moments.
Granted, for a 50th anniversary, I
Yeah,
guess
big
that
moment.
was kind of okay, particularly since it was just the moment of stealing the TARDIS, right? There wasn't like a huge explanation as to. I mean, it kind of. I was about to say it didn't go too deeply into like the Doctor, the reasons why, but they also kind of did, but they also kind of changed because initially they were like, "Oh, it's got something to do with, what happens in Heaven Sent," and then like when it actually like Bill asked the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time, it gives a different answer. So it still is kind of like something up in the air, right? And something that I think really
Mm,
shouldn't ever really have like a true definitive answer, I think.
yeah. But like that kind of stuff. I didn't like that Clara saw young Doctor in the barn or anything like that. I was
Mm,
never really a fan of that. And like,
mm,
there was. I just started to feel like we were getting too close to the line, right? Like
yeah.
you were getting you're on a tightrope. There's a clear
Mm,
line of Doctor Who, and see the issue is that so they've given the Doctor this new history and past of different universe and all that. But now I
mm.
feel like they're going to explain it, which then also
Yeah.
removes that mystery. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, so I kind of like the idea of having more of a mystery behind the Doctor, but also
Mm,
the issue is you if you introduce this big concept and then explain it all, then it's
mm.
like but you
Yeah,
cut
and
you
again,
want that explanation, but you don't want it at the same time. Like
that was what was
it's
good
yeah.
initially about like the Sylvester McCoy era, and I think actually the whole Cartmel master plan wasn't going to be fully explained either. Like, I don't think they were actually going to go that far with it beyond like throwing in. They had basically what they were doing was writing out kind of a backstory for themselves and then sprinkling little hints of it throughout, like his era and potentially beyond. Right, it's like a
Mm,
potential thing that they could like sneak in here and there to add to the mystery rather than subtract it.
yeah.
Here, like they've added like all these things and sprinkled it in to basically subtract the mystery and to have everything like laid out and explained. Which again, yeah, as you say, it's not something I really like. There should be mystery. There should be like these questions of, okay, what was the first Doctor doing before, you know, I mean, now that what we know up to date, before the Doctor left Gallifrey,
Yeah.
But now it's simultaneously got bigger, but also smaller in a way,
Yeah.
in terms of our actual, the
Yeah.
mystery surrounding it, right?
And it depends how it's concluded, right? Because if the
Hmm.
13th Doctor gets all the questions of who she was before,
Hmm.
and suddenly it's like, okay, so none of that's a mystery. Then, so we've got an only very tiny section here, which is a mystery now, which is what she was like growing up again from scratch,
But which
as
doesn't
William
even really
Hartnell.
matter, right? Given the
Yeah,
everything else around it is like, does that matter, right?
yeah, exactly. Like, because all of this came before it, like none of that period really mattered. Because it's like, I guess it is like, yeah, obviously it's a clean slate, so William Hartnell is completely fresh. But it's like,
Except not really,
but then it's
right?
like, well, yeah, if this is
The
always,
Doctor was still called the Doctor.
yeah.
Doctor still had the TARDIS. It's like, what did the first Doctor do beyond just not have those memories,
So I'm guessing
right?
it's down to that. Like that's the whole thing. Like how does Ruth Doctor have a blue box TARDIS? So that's the interesting thing, and that's I guess what we'll find out. I'm
I
hoping
guess.
that I feel like that has to be addressed at some point. I feel
I'm
like that's
sure.
something that is going to be. I don't feel like that would be such a huge fucking mistake. Like
Mm,
if it is that, like that's not like a small continuity error. That's like a massive fucking thing.
yeah.
So it's like okay, unless like Fugitive of a Jadoon had been set in like the 70s, you know,
Mm.
like just as police boxes were finished being used, then it would have made sense that the roof landed in that period, and
Or
then
they might try and explain it away with some sort of like doctor's mind is being tampered with, and just
but
like
that's not
here to
how the
where the doctor
chameleon.
saw
Yeah,
other thing. No, no, just like here how the doctor saw
uh,
like
but that was because
different
she was going
people in
back
the
through
places.
memory, though.
That's
Yeah, I don't
true,
know.
but
We'll
they could
see.
explain it away with something like that as
All
well. You know?
speculation. All speculation,
Yeah.
and we're gonna end this 10 minutes ago, so I'm gonna end it now. We'll see
Okay.
you
Okay.
next week, guys. Boy.
Boy.